Welcome to our strawbale house here just outside of Frederick, Maryland, in the foothills of the watershed, Gamble State Park. We are 5 years into building, pretty much done. Still a lot of finished details, not quite, but we are happily living in a circular strawbale house. By strawbale, I mean our walls are made of strawbale, and then earthen plastered on the inside and lime plastered on the outside, so that the actual walls can breathe. By having an earthen plaster on the inside and a breathable lime plaster on the outside, the bales are allowed to moderate humidity, which actually translates into a home that feels really comfortable in the summer when it's really humid outside. The inside air is just almost perfectly balanced and dry. And then of course here in the wintertime, it's extremely warm. This masonry heater behind me, which is a finished design, heats the whole house with one armful of wood a day. So one of the main reasons to build with straw bale is the minimal inputs in the long run. You're passively cooling the house because you have thick walls, and we have a living roof as well. A lot of heat in our homes is gained through the roof in the summertime. By having a living roof with plants and soil, that helps keep your house cool, plus 30-inch thick walls almost in some places. And then passive ventilation, which is designing your windows and your doorways to pull air in and up and out of the structure. So passive ventilation, living roof, keeps it nice and cool in the summer. And in the wintertime, that thick insulation of the walls holding in the heat from a well-designed masonry unit makes the inputs and comfort of living here really beautiful and easy as compared to most designed homes and buildings. They have to have constant inputs of air conditioning, constant inputs of heat, lots of energy input, period. Which costs a lot of money, has a big footprint. A lot of people even heat their own home with wood. It's a lot of work to heat a home that's not efficient with wood. That translates as a sore back. So good design, good consideration up front for when you're building and thinking about the long-term maintenance energy inputs can really balance out the input of work that it takes to build one of these homes. And it took a lot to build this home, mostly because it's round. Now, I love living in round structures because of the psychology of it. It's like your mind is free to move and to roam. It rolls off of things rather than gets blocked and bounces around or back on you, which I find happens when I'm in other architecture that's square. I mean, most of our built environment, our urban, suburban, everything is gridded and squared, and it shapes a lot of the way we're thinking about life. So living in a round structure really helps the mind, the psychology, the well-being. And on top of that, our structure is built from our own woods here. So all of the wood in the house is from our woods. We harvested most of it after Hurricane Sandy 5 years ago. So most of the wood in this house is storm fallen, and then hand peeled and sawmilled here on site, and all built right here with the elements of this space. The straw bales are from nearby farm. The floors and the walls are made with earth. So the walls, that's an earthen plaster, meaning it's a fine clay mixed with a fine particle like chopped straw, cattails, toilet paper. We use toilet paper in ours. And sand. And that becomes like this almost free-form ceramic mix that goes on the bales in multiple layers until you get it really nice and smooth like we have throughout our house. It's a labor of love. It definitely takes time, but it also offers the opportunity for lots of people to come and be part of building your home, which I think traditionally a lot of cultures did. in building a home, you were really creating a sense of place and community at the same time. And that's definitely what's happened in building this home. We've had lots of hands on this home, lots of help. And that feeling is in here too. So we have the wood, we have the earth, we have the stone, and this beautiful masonry piece. We have strong elements of where we are, and you feel that when you're in here. You're living that every day. You're touching it, and it just helps the well-being. It helps the psyche, squared walls, manufactured stuff, air conditioning blowing at you or heating blowing at you, all kinds of trippy lights. That frames our psychology. So living in a place like this is not just groovy and ecological and cool. It actually is a real big part of our well-being. At least, our family is really appreciating it very much. So in most straw bale homes, there's a truth window, usually an interestingly carved or made little window in the wall to show people what you mean by having a straw bale home. Because a lot of times when the straw bale is...
Looks like straw.
Yeah. When a straw bale home is done and plastered, as you can see in this finished earthen plaster here all around the window, it's hard to imagine that these walls are actually made of straw. So truth windows are neat opportunities to show. And this one has, wherever we have split cracked wood, we infill with turquoise. So we do like a turquoise inlay. So that's what you see there.
Cool, let me get a close up of that turquoise there. So this is the size of a straw bale, which is what, about 18 inches, 2 foot?
Yep.
Something like that.
18 inches. And then...
So that acts as insulation, right?
Wonderful insulation.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Upward of R40.
Mm-hmm.
And depending, it varies a bit bale to bale, but extremely good.
Versus the R20 something that you get with the pink.
Right.
Fiberglass.
This holds in moisture. This holds in heat well, and then holds out heat in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
So it creates a balance for the year round.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful resource that we're not utilizing enough. There's many layers within an earthen plaster. There's at least 3 layers. There's the first layer, which goes right onto the straw bales, sometimes called your scratch layer. Mm-hmm. And you're really having to work that in with the palm of your hand and really just get an adherence layer, almost like a slurry against the straw. That then makes this consecutive layers. The second layer, sometimes called the shaping layer, then can can hold on to that first layer more easily, and you can start to really, you can do it all by hand, or you can use trowels. And then you can really begin to shape and get the wall a little more in the shape that you want. And then your final layer is your final plaster, and it's often very thin. We're talking 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch, usually 1/4 inch, sometimes 1/8 of an inch, where you're really just kind of using very finely filtered, sieved sand, earth, and straw. So your particle size is very small. And then you're putting that on almost as a skin for aesthetics. And you can really play with even the colors within that final layer as well. So you could use your clay out of your yard to shape all the layers and even do your final if you like that color. Or in your final one, you can make up different recipes using different pigments, different elements. So we wanted a very light color plaster. Mm-hmm. So most earth color is not this cream, not this white. So I had to do some real daydreaming and research to figure out how to do it. And I mixed some different light colored clays, but the real secret in this is toilet paper. Yeah, good old soft toilet paper. And to help lighten the color, but then also the fine fiber in the toilet paper acts as an additional binder. And it makes your plaster a little bit more resilient and strong and keyed together.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it just feels good. And all of the earth in the plaster and in the floors, because these are earthen floors, also help moderate the humidity. So they'll absorb any extra humidity that's in the air, and then as that humidity recesses, it'll slowly come out. So you almost live in this beautifully balanced, humid environment.
Well, that's great, because I know most homes are, at least in the mid-Atlantic here, they're overly humid in the summer, and they're so dry your skin cracks in the winter.
It's not good. It doesn't feel good to you. And then if there's any moisture in the bales, even just from natural ambient humidity, it will also be able to migrate out. It'll be able to come through this earthen plaster, which breathes. That's what they mean by breathing in a straw bale home, is that any moisture will be able to come out and maintain a balance. So these straw bales should last hundreds of years. As long as they're not getting water from the ground or from above, they're able to moderate and breathe. So this house pretty much breathes and lives, which you feel too. And the outside is a lime plaster, and it also breathes.
Yeah.
Even
the
though
outside
the
we can
lime
see right
plaster, is more resilient to water. So water will basically slough off that.
Yeah.
But still you want it to breathe. So, and these are the elements of an earthen home, and the floor, the earthen floor is a wonderful thing to live on. This earthen floor has a natural oxide pigment in it. You'll be able to see in the back rooms the color of the earth better with the straw in it, but I wanted to try something different here, trying to go for sort of a more of a faux finish. And I just mixed some oxides in. So this earthen floor is about 6 to 7 inches thick. Lot of work, a lot of hand mixing of clay, sand, and straw. The first couple layers, which are approximately 2 to 3 inches each, help create the base, the structure, evening out any inconsistencies under there. And the top layer is really only about 1/2 inch thick. So again, like your earthen plasters, this is an opportunity to go ahead and refine your materials, filter your sand, your straw, and your soil down. And then if you want, add pigments, add a flair to it. And then that gets troweled on very much like you would on the wall. So get on your hands and knees and lots of troweling. It's a lot of handwork and body work, but then it is a wonderful to live on. What hardens the floor is linseed oil. After your top layer is completely dried, you are going to do consecutive oiling, and we're talking heavy oil here. We're talking gallons of linseed oil mixed with a little bit of a natural turpentine mineral spirit, and that comes down into the top layer of the soil and hardens it. It polymerizes it, makes it strong and resilient to where it's like concrete, even though it doesn't feel like that to live on. You could spill. Look, I'll take some of my tea here. You see this? That's going to sit on there. It's not going to absorb in. It's not going to weaken the floor there at all.
Yep.
Now, I additionally waxed these floors. You don't have to. At the oil stage, you're pretty much done. But I went ahead and did an additional wax just to give it a little more buffer. We have a 3-year-old and 2 dogs.
Yeah. So just to reiterate, this is just the plaster on the ground of various different types, but there is not a straw bale under the floor.
There's no straw bale under the floor.
But part of that plaster does have straw mixed into it.
Yes. The straw mixed into the plaster is like the fiber helps connect and lock together the clay and the sand. It acts like tensile strength in it, so it keeps it from wanting to pull apart.
So if there's any tendency to crack or anything, that
reduces
kind of like rebar
cracking.
in concrete.
Yeah, we got some cracking in the big floor here, where other rooms are smaller rooms for different reasons, no cracking. But I think the cracking can add character and flavor, almost make it look a little old world.
Absolutely. Okay, so Michael has us in here. He has one area that doesn't have the final coat on, so we actually have the pleasure of looking at what he calls a second coat.
This is the second coat, also called the shaping coat. And you can see it's got rills in it. Now, until your final coat, you want to make sure that the coat you're going on to always has something to key into, something to lock into. That's why we put these lines in here, so that now that it's ready for the final coat, it'll key into that and hold it better. You wouldn't, as compared to if this was a really smooth surface, it would be a lot harder to get that final plaster to stick well. Yeah. So this is to a point where we're happy with the shape because the final coat doesn't really change the shape at all. It just kind of beautifies the surface. It's our boot room. We don't heat it, which is nice. I mean, it's fine in here, but it's one room we can close off, which is a nice combo when someone comes in. You're not, blasting cold into the house or having that heat leave easily. Yep. It's kind of our, slightly utility room. This is cherry from our land and Ashley's farmland nearby. And this is actually, this is our electrical panel. Okay. It's full of wires all the way up exposed. So it's like, how do we kind of make something beautiful out of that? So that's,
you did it.
Kind of function there. Yeah. Function and beauty coming together.
I see a wonderful flow here. It's roomy, it's natural, but it's also modern because as I look over your head there, I see the sprinkler heads. So the fire department obviously had their say in the building. So everything here is built to code.
Everything's permitted, everything's coded. I actually was impressed by how, I wouldn't say easy, but not extremely painful to deal with the county and the whole permitting process. I did spend a lot of money on good drawings and I had to have them engineered, stamped. And what I partly learned to some degree is that if you'll get something well drawn and engineered, stamped, then you can almost do it. Because if the county's not on the line for it, someone else is. Like in Frederick County, there's load-bearing straw bale houses, meaning that the walls are holding the weight of the entire roof in the house, and that's been coded. I mean, there's plenty of these around the country, but every time a house is built for the first time in a county, it's almost a whole new process. But being able to do weight bearing is amazing and awesome because the straw bales then become your entire structure. We put a lot of time and work into this house by building, all the wood. All the round wood, timber framing, round wood joinery, and just all the woodwork, which is a big part of the beauty of the house and the land that it's built on. But it took a lot of time. If I was to consider, building more simply, I would probably do something with weight-bearing straw bale walls to cut down that time and cost of all the carpentry. And you really don't need a super big set of skills, building skills to do straw bale load bearing, to learn to do the plastering and all of this. It's something that's still innate within us, this type of building, this creation of structures that aren't super complicated and over-engineered and lots of math and angles and all that. I mean, you're gonna do it right, you gotta be safe, but we still have the ability to build on a simpler level. And this house shows a lot of that we can still do this. It's not just a dream or a pie in the sky or some guy out in the woods and Frederick doing it. It's something that we could all branch into.
Yeah. So talking about weight and load bearing, and you said that it's a living roof, so meaning that there's soil on top of the roof. That would make me think that it has to be very, very structurally sound to hold that weight. So can you explain us that?
Yeah, so one of the reasons this house is really beefed up is for the weight of the roof. Even though there's only about 4 or 5 inches of soil up there, there's just a considerable amount of weight that comes with that. And you can distribute weight, so it doesn't necessarily have to be something that's super muscular as long as it's well designed. You distribute your weight. It doesn't have to be necessarily a huge engineering feat. But yeah, our house, our decking, which is all wood from our land, is a good 3 inches thick.
So this decking right up here is 3 inches thick.
And that's poplar.
And it's tongue and groove.
It's tongue and groove. We tongue and grooved it. The tulip poplar is becoming even more one of the most common trees in our region, as it fills in deforested areas very quickly. It's somewhat of a mid-succession tree, meaning after pioneers move in, some of those awesome things like autumn olive and Goomy and elderberry, some of these characters that are tough, resilient, and shrub-like are sort of that pioneer stage to get land that's been, scraped and abused, regenerating. Then they create that habitat, that safety for birds, which then drop seeds of the trees nearby, which then begin to grow out and grow through that shrub layer, that pioneer, and continue the cycle of succession, which never ends. It just keeps cycling down and through, and there's disturbances in the growth system, and then it regenerates again. So anyway, poplar doesn't get a lot of credit as being a good building wood. It is classified as a hardwood, but it's a very soft hardwood. So we found it beautiful to work with, very strong, really long, smooth grain, easy to peel. And there's a big one. Peeling logs is a lot of work.
Yeah.
With the poplar, it's not that bad. A cherry log, forget about it. You're sitting there and you're just using your little hand, pull knife, draw knife, every inch on a piece of cherry. Whereas with a poplar, you can really peel off that log pretty nicely. And then it's not too heavy once it's dry. So these are things, you want to keep poplar dry and covered in your structure. It's not going to hold up as well to exterior elements like the black locust would, right? But I would say that 80% of our house is built out of poplar. And then I would say, maybe 15 is cherry, and 5 is black locust, the exterior elements. It's a beautiful wood, and it's got all this variation of character in it.
It is absolutely gorgeous, no doubt about that.
I'm a big fan of it.
Look up there.
Some cleaning to do here.
Just a gorgeous place, Michael.
Place, walk-in sort of Roman style tub, where eventually it's going to be mosaic tiled all the way up. And it's just an open-aired shower, kind of give you that regenerative sort of spa feeling in a tub and a shower. And then this wall behind it is actually a lime plaster. It's not a finished plaster yet, but it's lime instead of being earthen plaster, so that any water that gets splashed on it will be able to run off. So lime is much more resilient and sheds water.
Yeah, that makes sense in a tub area here. And
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
from this view, we can see how thick the walls are right here.
It may not be the prettiest shot. Maybe
this
side. Maybe this side. This side shows you how.
Try this shot here. This kind of shows you how thick the wall is. God, that's probably at least 15 inches before we even hit this wood here, and then it's level with the outside. So yeah, you're definitely 22, 23 inches on the outside there. So Michael Judd, thank you very much for meeting with Great Escape Farms and giving us a tour of your wonderful homestead here. How can our subscribers get a hold of you, or can you give us some more information about how they can find more information about you?
Okay. We do quite a few events and workshops out here on our land. We have about 25 acres just north of downtown Frederick. Beautiful, wood-lotted, beautiful stream running through it, budding food forests, our natural building projects. So we are really developing what we do also as an educational resource, a real hands-on, a real sort of come and see what this looks like, how do you do some of these things. So one of the best ways to really connect is to come out and be part of one of our workshops, one of our tours, one of our talks. And those are listed on our website, which is ecologiadesign.com. Ecologia is a Portuguese word for ecology. So ecologiadesign.com has our workshops. It lists talks that I'm doing throughout the country and throughout the region. I really love to talk about pawpaws and a lot of other uncommon fruits, how to shape your landscape to take advantage of the resources of water and sun and just the natural elements, which is what permaculture focuses on. Working with, so really the best ways to do that, our website also has a lot of information of how to, how do you create swales, raised beds on contour that harvest water? How do you work hugelkulture? How do you start a food forest? So I put a lot of information that actually came from my book on the website, parts of it, chunks of it, that are also very informative. So that's probably the best way. Facebook, we have a Facebook page under the name of our book, Edible Landscaping with a Permaculture Twist. I also have one under my name, Michael Judd. Instagram, I'm on and off under Permaculture Ninja. So all these different ways. Yeah.
Again, thank you very much, Michael.
Yeah. Thanks.